The media are all over the RNC's censure of two dissident Republicans, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, for serving on the January 6th committee. And that story got a huge boost when Mitch McConnell and other top GOP leaders slammed the latest repercussions from the Capitol riot.
We saw what happened. It was a violent insurrection for the purpose of trying to prevent the peaceful transfer of power. The issue is whether or not the RNC should be sort of singling out members of our party who may have different views from the majority. That's not the job of the RNC.
This whole condemnation of Cheney and Kinzinger is an Orwellian exercise designed to protect a cult-like cohesion around a party now committed to defending a lie.
Speaking of Liz Cheney, we warned Nancy Pelosi against putting her on the January 6th committee. Well, Pelosi, of course, didn't listen, and now it's all starting to crash and burn around her.
RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel tells Fox she blames the press for the way it's covered her committee's resolution.
The media has really distorted some of the language in this censure. Legitimate political discourse never includes violence.
Molly, the media do cover every little development involving January 6th, but when Mitch McConnell takes on Trump and calls it an insurrection and rips the RNC over its censure against Kinzinger and Cheney, that seems like a pretty big story.
Well, certainly this is, I think, why so many Republican voters were disappointed in Mitch McConnell, because he accepted the media lie about this RNC censure. Most Republican voters would like Republicans to fight much more vociferously against some of Nancy Pelosi's attacks on Republicans and how Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger have helped that. They lied and said that this resolution said that rioting was legitimate political discourse. That's a lie. They never said that. They did critique the January 6th committee for attacking people for First Amendment protected activities. The media coverage of this committee has not been good. It has not been honest about how this committee has seized records of peaceful people, their phone records, their bank records, their texts. And these are people who have committed no crime, are not even accused of committing a crime, but are political opponents of people on the committee. That Mitch McConnell supported those media lies, I think, speaks to why he is the least popular politician in America, even lower than Biden and Kamala Harris, because people in the Republican Party want people who fight the media misinformation and lies that they're subjected to, not join with it and amplify it and give people an excuse to cover it more.
Harold, that phrase, legitimate political discourse, the Washington Post says it was added to the original draft in the middle of the night and no one's quite sure who put it in. But that really set off the media and McConnell and other Republicans, and I think it's hard to entirely blame this on the press if you have top Republicans objecting to that particular phrase in the resolution.
I think without question, I think even when you add to that, Howie, I think the former vice president even came out and had some fairly strong remarks at the Federalist Society around some of these issues. Look, I think Democrats should show some restraint here. The current infighting within the GOP, we have a little current infighting in our own party. There's a little tension and conflict between moderates and progressives, as they're known. I think that the real issue is a dispute between, which you've just nailed it, which you've just honed down on, the dispute between Mr. McConnell and former President Trump. I would agree with Molly that Republicans are better and the body politic is better when we're talking about the future and talking about policy, not necessarily fighting the media, but perhaps that's part of it. I think you got to lay out a set of ideas. And because the real group you have to win over are independent voters. I think as we look at polling data in the coming days and the coming weeks, and we're 8 months out now, more than that, and it looks as if the Republicans have an advantage. But if Democrats or Republicans, whoever's first able to really address COVID, Ukraine, crime, and the rising cost of everything from sausage to semiconductors, that's the party that's going to win. If it comes down to whether or not January 6th actually happen or not, I think it probably favors Democrats.
Molly, Donald Trump, who calls Mitch Old Crow, among other things, says the Senate Republican leader does not speak for the Republican Party, does not represent the views of the vast majority of voters. Now, whether you like Senator McConnell or not, though, does it seem the press is right that this internal low-level warfare over January 6th, the committee and all that, has now spilled over into public view and is now in itself becoming a major issue that could affect the political environment this year?
Right. This is just standard operating procedure for the media and other Democrats. They love Republicans who attack the broad Republican voter and the broad Republican Party. When you look at this situation of how the Democrats and other media and other Democrats are weaponizing the January 6th Commission to attack their political opponents rather than deal with any of those issues that Harold mentions might be of much more interest to the American people, that's what Republican voters are sick of. But there is this issue that the media, they love the establishment Republican, they love people like Mitch McConnell, but you're looking at primary races throughout the country, and even people who are running for Senate are pledging not to vote for Mitch McConnell. I mean, I'm not sure how big of an issue that is, but it's an actual live political issue. Voter frustration with Mitch McConnell and other establishment Republicans for not fighting so much harder while Democrats control the White House, the Senate, the House. They want people who articulate opposition to Democrats and the media narratives that are out there. They see a country that is hurting so much, and they would like Republican leaders to fight that much more vociferously.
Harold, I got 20 seconds. It is true the media love internal Republican Party warfare.
I think the media loves internal party warfare on both sides, but I got to tell you, it's pretty good theater when Mitch McConnell, who people credit with giving the Republicans a conservative set of jurists and a conservative Supreme Court, is fighting with the former president. For the body politics' sake, I hope they're able to get back to talking about issues. But if they don't, however, we should be clear, and Molly knows this will certainly give Democrats a window and a lane back to be credible and successful in the November midterms.
Right, but it does seem like a lot of beltway politics to a lot of people. Harold Ford, Molly Hemingway, thanks very much for coming by this Sunday.